Hello and welcome back to Boxing Social in association with Betfred. My name is Ayman Khan. We're here in Stratford, London. With me is the one and only Joe Gallagher, who has his charge, Mark Heffron, on the undercard, taking on Lennox Clark this weekend. First of all, Joe, how's life treating you?
Yeah, good mate. Busy, sun's shining, can't complain.
Sun's shining, can't complain. We've got boxing on at the weekend too. First of all, Joe, you've got a stable, thriving stable. What's the latest in terms of your stable updates with all your fighters?
Yeah, everyone's in the gym. We just put a show back from July the 30th to August the 20th. That features like Sean Yaxley, Callum Thompson, Jose Burton, Marcus Morrison. Was working, speaking to Schaefer at the moment, and Mr. Honda in making this Paul Butler in UA fight done. There's also negotiations still going on with Natasha Jonas and Hannah Rankin, and obviously we've got Mark Heffron this weekend.
Let's talk about Mark. There was some conversation between Mark and Lennox about that. Also Dev picked up upon maybe this being the last final chance, maybe the last throw of the dice for Mark. Is that the feeling from yourself and Mark coming into the lead up with this fight?
Love stirring the pot, Dev, doesn't he? He's getting better at it. I wouldn't necessarily. Mark feels it is, but Mark likes to put that bit of pressure on himself. I don't think it is. He's 30 years of age. It's a third-time opportunity fighting for the British title. He's fighting a very good fighter in Lennox Clark. You've got to give full credit to someone who's come from a white collar with only 7 fights and become British and Commonwealth, especially in this era where it doesn't hold the value like it did years ago because they're bringing trinket belts in. But that British and Commonwealth, they're great titles, and for Lennox to have achieved that already in his career is a huge achievement. He should be very proud of it. But for Mark Heffron, this is a moment for him to get in there and do what he's always promised to do. Like all fighters when they turn professional, they all have huge potential. Some retire and never fulfil it. Mark Heffron Saturday night has to fulfil what I've always thought his potential is. So we've got a champion that's coming back as a challenger, has that mentality. Lennox is a very strong individual. You're going to have to earn that belt if you've got to win it. Mark Heffron, he sees it as well, and it's just a case of, I don't watch boxing much on Saturday night, but if there was, this would be one fight I'd be sit back and just enjoy and watch the two of them go at it.
In terms of that then, because it's been billed as between boxing fans talking about this fight being fireworks, is it kind of a fight where you have to maybe rein Mark in a little bit to make sure he doesn't go gung-ho straight from the off?
Listen, Lennox has done his game plan, we've done ours, and whatever will be on the night, it'll all be on the night. Sometimes you need a little bit of luck in boxing, and that can be anything. So we'll see how it goes. Mark's temperament, he's been good in camp. It's been a tough camp. He's had a hard camp, physically, emotionally, mentally. But we're here now, and he's just a happy fighter. He's great. He's on weight. He's no problem, and the move up to 168 has been a blessing. Mark Heffron at the moment is on weight. To think we'd have to go and then lose half a stone to make middleweight is like, wow, how did you ever do that for them other fights? So we've got a happy fighter, as I say, he's a dangerous fighter.
You mentioned there with your stable, Natasha Jonas, and the negotiations going on with Hannah Rankin. How close is that, and is that likely to land on Shields Marshall Bill?
Well, hopefully that's the plan, but we'll see. Natasha has got a fight in May, but we were assured don't, because Hannah's fighting in May and we'll definitely do this fight in September. So an offer was put to Hannah and the team, and hopefully they'll fulfil that. Otherwise it's just been a waste of time. But negotiations are ongoing. From what I'm hearing, Hannah Rankin wants it, and if that's what Hannah wants, then I think that's what Hannah should get. It's a fantastic bill to be part of if it goes on it. And it's a chance to look back in time and think I was part of that and being on that show with them type of fighters. Maya, Benn-Eubank, Marshall, Shields, it's a great fight, and then Natasha Jonas Rankin. I think it's got to be an all-female bill, so to be part of that is a thing to look back on. You don't want to regret and go, oh, I wish I was on that. And so we'll see. Listen, it's Hannah Rankin, it's her career, it's her decision, and good luck with whichever one she chooses.
Paul Butler has made no underestimations about how tough a fight with Naoya Inoue would be if he does face him next. But from a trainer's perspective, it must be just such a brilliant proposition to game plan train for someone of the standing of Naoya Inoue as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Listen, Paul Butler, see, it's a chance for Inoue to be undisputed. But people forget it's a chance for Paul Butler to be undisputed. And like you say, anything happens in boxing. So Paul Butler's got to work, he's got to train hard. We're going in there with a chance and thinking it's a slim chance that we can cause the upset. And sometimes when fighters maybe overlook certain opponents, do you know what I mean? Look at Lloyd Honeyghan, Donald Curry, it happens. You can't say it doesn't happen. But we've got to go in there and prepare ourselves the best, or Paul is, that if there was a chance, we've got to be fit enough to take the chance and gamble. And like I say, for Paul Butler to test himself against the best in the world for the undisputed titles, who is anyone to say that you can't? Do you understand? He's earned that right. He's a 2-time world champion. And full credit to him. If we can get this fight done and made, it'll be great, whether that be in the UK or in the USA or in China. We'll just have to wait and see, but negotiations are ongoing.
Joe, I want to get your thoughts on a few other things. The leading thing I want to get your thoughts on is Usyk, Anthony Joshua too. A lot of talk about kind of how that fight plays out and what Joshua has to do to get the victory there. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think it's Usyk what he has to do. People are treating this, it's just like he's fighting Andy Ruiz, who's gone to net himself. We're dealing with Usyk, who's like one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world. Do you not think Usyk's got to go away and improve and work out what AJ's got to try and do and everything else? So people forget, I think it was even round 1, Usyk walked up and hit Joshua with a big shot. I think round 3 he had Joshua legs wobbled already, and I just think it was at any moment, if Usyk really wanted to, he could have put his foot to the floor. There was still more from him to come, and I think we'll see this in this fight. Listen, Joshua is going back in there, he's trying to do what he can, the best way that he can, and that's throwing bombs. And that's what Anthony Joshua's got to do. He's not got to win the fight by outboxing him. And I think Alexander Usyk has done what he's done as always as an amateur. He's fought the best in the world on a regular basis. And when he turned professional, he carried on doing that in other fighters' back gardens, where some of ours build careers, touches here and there, where Usyk has always kept his tools sharpened, do you understand? And I think that may be the difference. But you cannot deny the hunger, the appetite, the wanting to self-improve, the move from McCracken. I personally don't think it should have happened. I think when it's McCracken and Froch, you see what difference. It was McCracken, it was AJ. It's just a shame, but AJ moves on. We'll only know August the 21st if it was the right move or not.
Strong rumours, which are getting louder and louder, that Conor Benn will be fighting Chris Eubank Jr. at a catchweight 155 to 158, somewhere around there. Your thoughts on that one?
I've just someone else just asked me about that. A bit of mixed feelings, really. One, just for being the boxing traditionalist, in the fact that when you turn professional, you want to fight for the English title, fight for the British, fight for the Commonwealth, fight for the European, and fight for a world. Conor Benn's done none of them. Eubank Jr. wanted to be a world middleweight champion, became an IBO one, moved up to super middleweight, but. So the British Boxing Board of Control, if I went to the British Boxing Board of Control and said I've got a welterweight here that wants to fight a middleweight stroke super middleweight who's been a former world champion, this kid's not for a title, the board wouldn't allow it. But because of the names, everyone's buying into it. Eubank Jr. has never made that weight in his life. The lightest he's ever been is 158, I think it was against Blackwell in 2014-15. So the board needs to look how he's got to make weight for that. I understand from Conor Benn's point of view, it's win-win. I go in there, I'm not supposed to win. Big payday, come back, rebuild. Eubank Jr., well, when you went in the World Boxing Super Series, you had a devilment about you. You fought George Groves, you wanted to be a world champion. Where's that gone now? You should be going in there and fighting on Caleb Plant or Billy Joe Saunders. I'm trying to be a world champion again, and we've slagged YouTube boxing off for a long time, but this has made a mockery about tradition and boxing. So, like I said, in a couple of years, what we've got to have Campbell Hatton versus William Croller's brother. And we just got to pick names and fight and events. And I understand, but everyone's got to buy into the dad and the talking and everything else, and it's money and everything else. But a little bit of me is a bit sad that Kell Brook got an awful lot of stick for going up step in Triple G, welterweight, middleweight. But Kell Brook was a world champion. But they're allowing it again, and a kid that's never fought, not even for a domestic title. And that's not saying Conor Benn's no good. He's made huge improvements. Tony Sims has done a great job, but I just think that there's levels, and I just think, is that where we're going in boxing now? We're having to clutch at straws, that type of thing, to make a bit of an event like that on, when there's perfectly good, great domestic fights to be made.
Final fight, I want to get your thoughts on. I'll bring it back to Marker. Canelo, Triple G3, a lot of talk about maybe this is the final exclamation mark Canelo put on the trilogy by maybe potentially stopping Triple G. Do you share that sentiment?
I think we're going off how Triple G performed last time out. Early on he got hit more than he's ever done before, but he had been out a long time. Triple G's a very good fighter, but age can catch up with you. Canelo, if Canelo beating Bivol, maybe, because Canelo have that swag about him, but he's hurting now. He's being beat. He's lost the pound for pound ranking. He'll be wanting to prove, I am. And he'll want to put on a performance. Triple G will want to show everyone that he is it. But I just think that little bit more youth and that little bit more determination for Canelo will be the key factor. And I do think Triple G may get hit too much. I think it'll go to points again. But I wouldn't rule Triple G out.
Final question for me. Saturday night, what can we expect to see from Mark Heffron in the ring?
Mark Heffron, listen, Heffron Clark is just a great fight. Get your popcorn. Got to sound like Richard Schaefer. I said, just get your fight, sit back, enjoy it, and listen, it's got to be one of the domestic fights of the year.